Welcome, everybody, back to the Martial Mind Podcast. I'm Adam here with Ryan and John, and today we're going to talk about the importance of testing, pushing yourself, and lots of other great stuff. Stay tuned.
It was about a week ago we had our last sash test where John was testing for orange, and orange is, for this lucky dog right here, the first test that you have to spar for, where you just get beaten up, basically, for the last anywhere from 3 to 16 rounds, depending on how unlucky you are, for what for what color you're testing for.
It felt like about 3 to 16 hours.
Well, the test was a total of 10 hours long. I think you were done around, like, what, hour 8?
Yeah, pretty much hour 8, yeah.
Yeah, by the time you sparred, because that's the fun part. Even if you finish early, because you're going for a lower level test, they make you wait until, even if someone who's testing for black has to spar, you have to wait until they're finished so that they can spar. So everyone spars together. So
and you have to stay warm, so you're just moving around the entire time and in a state of anxiety. The longer they make you wait, the worse it is, because you want to just get it over with.
True. So, John, just leading straight into you, feelings, first few days leading up to the test, morning of the test, all the way to the end of the test. How are we kind of feeling? How were you feeling about yourself going into the test? What were your thoughts, feelings?
Well, there was a lot of preparation that went into it. I didn't drink for quite some time, and I did drink on my birthday. That was on July 28th, about a week before.
He had 39 beers.
Yeah, about 40 beers. I had a glass of scotch and a glass of wine on my birthday with a steak. It was delicious. But it was just like, I had nerves still, I was still taking care of myself. I was working out a lot, not too much week before, nailed down my material. I really just kind of slid into home base last minute with the self-defense. I feel like that was definitely where my nerves were at.
Normal.
Yeah, that is. That definitely is. Self-defense is usually the last thing to kind of get together. A lot of the time.
That was, that's really where I was really, really nervous about, because I didn't know exactly how many techniques I needed to put together, so I was just kind of trying to just be able to think on my feet and do at least 4 or 5 different things from 5 or 6 different attacks,
So for people that are listening, who obviously don't train at our school, and I think we've detailed it in episodes before, but if you're just joining us for the first time, when we test at our school, we train at a Shaolin Kung Fu school under Sifu Greg Zill, but we test at our school, we really focus on every detail of what, in our teacher's definition is what a martial artist should encapsulate. So it's really a mental test. It starts with an hour or 2 of just PT, like push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, whatever devilishness they can think of to put you through. Basic techniques. They did aerial kicks, which we put a little bit of on our Instagram story, but Ryan and I were taking notes and proctoring the test, so it was a little bit difficult to record content and really be there for the students. Yeah. So we apologize that there wasn't more on video, but maybe one day we can afford to hire somebody to come film it for us. But again, that puts too much pressure on the students. Again, it's not about us; it's about them. It's their day.
We filmed some stuff. It was
there
just,
were
we had to
3 people going for black sash, so there was a lot of pressure in the room. And so, let's just say, from the beginning, obviously, there's less that you test for your white sash and a lot more that you test for your black sash. But ultimately, what you want to work up towards for your black sash is getting through a 5K, getting through a couple hours of PT after your 5K, doing all your basic techniques, about 300 push-ups, 500 crunches, depending on the person who's testing. Obviously, it depends on who's testing. I think they had to do 250 for black this time around. So it depends on who's testing. But still, they want to find your limits and they want to break them. So if you're doing 200 push-ups clean in class, they're going to make you do 300, that kind of thing. 5 minute isolated lateral hold, which we just call holding buckets, and
hold the wood out until you cry.
Yeah.
Between 3 to 5 pound buckets.
5 minute horse stance or mabu, depending on how you refer to it. And then all your forms, open hand forms, weapons forms, and self-defense and fighting, we can, it's different. It's different. I know a lot of schools, I can't speak to it because I don't do it, but a lot of schools, I think, maybe they'll just spar, maybe they'll just ask for a couple techniques, but you want over 100 choreographed self-defense techniques, so that means you have over 100 ideas of 100 different scenarios that you could do against all different kinds of attacks and all different kinds of opponents. And when you get to that level, sometimes they'll switch a little person out for a bigger person, they'll make it happen, and then you just get jumped, and you have to, without hurting people, show control and get people off you. attack, defend. Morgan was like grabbing my ribs with Tiger. She was using Tiger to like grab my ribs and like dig her fingers in between my ribs and like to cause pain, which is like she's thinking that she bit me twice, which I'm very proud of her for.
I was going to say, biting is
literally,
frowned upon, but she'll do
literally bit my hand and my ankle.
She'll
Super fun. But she's thinking. But you know what I mean? Like, so it's like you're tested to your absolute limits, and that is so exhausting. Just like have like 4 or 5 people on you, and you got to stay off the ground and keep throwing them and keep finding takedowns and getting people off of you, and then you got to fight 16 rounds, full contact, and it's like nobody's trying to kill you, but they're not taking it easy on you either.
No.
Right.
So in kind of summarizing all of that, and John having to go through basically all of that to a different degree compared
a few
to
less self-defense techniques, a few less forms, a few less weapons forms, and a few less rounds. That's really all it is. It's the same test again and again and again. There's just more content added to it.
So I feel like going into the test, so good prep. You feel like you kind of like you said, slid into home base with your techniques. You felt like you leading into the test. You're like, all right, I kind of have everything I need. It's really just more probably the mental and emotional game at this point. So I mean, morning of getting there, start of the test, like, what was your experience?
So the morning of, got up around like 5 a.m. Woke up with the wife, had breakfast. Nothing too crazy, but it was like a number of hours before, so I had a bagel, just some carbs for the day and whatnot. Not too much. I didn't have eggs or anything. Nothing that was going to make me shit immediately. That would have been bad. No, I don't want that. I was joking around. I texted the boys like, yeah, I just had some 300 grams of chili and some ice cream. So that's great for when you're going to get punched in the stomach a lot, which that's a little bit of foreshadowing right there. So
it's not foreshadowing if you say it's foreshadowing.
It's foreshadowing.
Just Ben and Jerry's new flavor cookies and chili is what I
and pain. But when I got there, it's pretty palpable. Just the kind of like what's in the air. Like everybody is just, there's a lot of gravity. Everybody's pretty intense about the day.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. It feels so. I was doing my best to kind of tamp that and just take it easy, focus on just the task at hand, and it's nothing that we don't do all the time, So I was just trying to keep that in mind. That
it's a very, very long class.
Yeah, it's going to be a long day. So if you get wrapped up like early, like that's a bad start.
Yeah.
So leading up to it, I was just trying to take it easy, like stay light mentally, and just like focus on the moment, and just tell myself I know this. Like I know that I wouldn't be testing if I didn't know it already. And that I'm ready. I knew I was ready. So I just tried to embody that.
Good.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself struggling at all to keep that in the first 2 hours, or did you feel pretty solid throughout? Because I gotta say, and me and Ed were talking about it when we were watching on the other end of the test. Was that you looked especially mentally very, very solid in those first 2 hours, which again is just calisthenics, stance work, plyometrics, running, all that stuff. So
I didn't say any of that. That's on you.
I just said that too, Ed, and Ed went. So
no,
we both said it. No, but
fingers
you
crossed behind your back.
No, but you really did though. And again, we were especially, because when we work out, sometimes your cardio and sometimes that type of grit can be a little bit of a issue for you, and sometimes of kind of pushing through. So in seeing that, I was we were both pretty impressed. So I mean, did you feel pretty solid throughout those? Because that first section of the day is usually where people will either cry or they'll start breaking down, or you'll see that come through as they kind of really get into the meat of the test.
Well, in the first couple hours, I felt good. I was staying focused, and I think I kind of got like a second wind, or like just kind of thank goodness, because I was preparing for 200 push-ups and 300 crunches. I think I only needed to do like 150 and then 250, something like that. So it wasn't too much less, but it was less. And I'm like, yeah, I got this, and I kind of tried to maintain that as well. But yeah, first 2 hours, it was hard.
And for the fanatics out there, no, we don't make them all perfect bodybuilding. Chest touches the floor. It's about survival. It's about getting through it. It's about keeping the reps going and not putting your knees down and staying up and pushing through the pain and doing what you can and letting your muscles hit failure. And it's not a bodybuilding class. It's not a CrossFit class or anything like that. It is a test of your will.
By the end, if you're just still doing like a push-up motion, moving your body up and down, they're like, just get it fucking done so we can move on. Like, everyone's waiting for you.
Let's go. Because they know from experience that you're in excruciating pain. And that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
It's a very long day, as we said already. So, like, burning out at the push-ups is a bad way to start.
Yeah,
So-
it happens.
Oh, yeah,
I did.
dude.
I burned out way early on push-ups.
Yeah.
I remember my red sash test, I'm doing push-ups, and Sifu Leo is over me like, you want to let this be what makes you fail?
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Because it was like push-up 60, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
like not having a
It's
good
like that.
time.
It's like those are like pretty good, and then after that, you're just like.
Push-ups on my black set. Push-ups have always been rough for me, especially with the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, not that it's an excuse, but yeah, it's hard. That's a hard part of the test. That is a hard part of the test. Something I think about constantly. So one thing I noticed, and this is totally normal. This isn't like just a John thing, Like one thing I noticed about you is like 4 to 6 weeks, I think it was, before the test. You like woke up, like when the pressure was on and it was like, oh my God, the test like really is close. You just kind of like cleaned up a lot of your habits and really showed up for yourself for the rest of the time coming. Worked out on your own, did things that were challenging for you to do in the past, sought out Sifu Greg for privates, like did everything that you could to do what you could do to make sure you had a good test, and then the results showed on the day. And then the dangerous part about that is what ends up happening sometimes. I'm not saying this is going to happen with you, but then what ends up happening is that you go, I can take a back seat now. I can relax. But the problem is when we relax too much, we backpedal. We step backwards. And I've seen that happen. It happened with me. Like especially between green and purple, So like
it's a rough time period.
So what has to be in your mind now going forward is that from orange to green is where everybody quits. It's where everybody gives up. It is the hardest part in this, not in the system, but it is like by the time, if you make it to green sash, you've made your decision. Orange sash is like you're sitting on the fence. Not saying you are, but I'm saying like the general, like soup that goes on, the general spiritual soup in the area is all, like that's when people are really fence sitting. Like I don't think any of the black sashes or anybody really considers anybody until they're like green or a purple sash. Then it's like, okay, you're a good candidate to be a Laoshih. Like you have to get there. Like nobody really thinks of anybody. And it's not a personal thing. It's just like nobody really thinks of anybody as a black sash candidate until they've made it to like green or purple sash at least. Like everybody thinks red sash. Like green or purple sash is really when people are like, okay,
there's potential for you to
continue and go further, because orange sash to green is really the hardest jump, because however your techniques look now, they're going to be scrutinized times 10. You have to learn butterfly swords. You have to learn broadsword. You have to learn new staff form. You have to learn, is it 2 or 3 new open hand forms? Tong Bei Chuan and Tian Di Chuan?
No. Tong Bei Chuan and 18 palms.
And 18 palm. Holy shit, you got to learn my 18 palms.
That's 5 forms.
We used to call that form. We used to call it Lang Lo, which was the wrong word, but we called it Long Lo because it never ends.
All right.
It is tremendously cardiovascularly taxing. Cardiovascularly.
It's like 70. Taxing. It's like 70 plus movements. I think. Yeah. It's like the longest. It's not. It's not.
Doing it fast takes about 60 seconds to get through it.
It takes It takes 49 minutes to do it.
God, it's a freaking 3K.
It's a 3K that happens right in this space.
That's it, right here. Oh man.
So you have to learn all this material. So like, what I saw from you, the point that I'm making is that like what I saw from you with how you attacked this test, that's the energy that you need to keep.
Yeah.
That's how you need to keep moving forward. Like the you that you were the 6 weeks leading up to the test is how you have to be going forward. You know what I mean? Like, because you can do it. You 100% can do it. Absolutely. Yeah. We have all the faith in the world in you. It's just like that's where you're at right now. You know what I mean? That's where you're at right now. Yeah. So the push-ups and sit-ups were clean, and horse stance was pretty clean too.
Yeah.
Especially like with your knees and your back. Like, for you, I think it was a tremendous horse stance. Now, did you start, because the stance work I know is a difficulty for you because of the issues that you've had with like your knees and your ankles. How did you feel mentally going into the isometric stuff?
Yeah, I mean that it was all fine for like the first few hours. Definitely, I didn't feel any sort of like, you know, it was difficult. You know, it was long, and I'm not trying to make light of it. But mentally, I felt very strong through all of it. You know, I don't think I ever got to a place where, you know, quitting was not an option at all. Like, it was just seriously, you know.
That's good.
I maintained pretty steadfast with that whole preliminary. Even so, I think we mentioned earlier the black sashes need to run a 5K. So while they were out doing that, this is when we did a bunch of other extra exercise isometric stuff. The push-ups and crunches didn't happen until everybody got back.
Because we were outside watching, making sure everyone was running, so we actually didn't even see what you guys were doing. But Sifu Nick apparently was cooking up some fun, some fun things, activities.
And the run, you know, the 5K took, I think the slowest runner about 40 minutes, something like that.
Yeah,
it was like 40 minutes.
It was a long time.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, so during that time period, you know, it was pretty much, we went through basics. We did horse dance and buckets, iron bridge, pretty much the whole rigmarole of how to start like in an intermediate class, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then like once we ran out of, like, we were doing Tiger Strike and Snake and everything, and we're like, where's everybody? they're still running.
Yeah.
And then we needed to do it again, and there was a lot of groans in the room, but I didn't feel that way. I'm like, let's
you had to do
it.
basics twice?
Yeah, well, we had to do the horse dance, buckets, and all that stuff again. So yeah,
so you guys did. So wow, I didn't even realize that. So you guys did, and I'm assuming at that time too, probably people thought, they were like, oh, we're getting our buckets and horse dance out of the way.
Nope, we had to do it twice. Yeah.
Holy shit, that sucks.
Yeah,
that sucks.
And I'm not gonna lie, man, that was like, that was challenging, but like at no point was I feeling that cue button in my head. I was not ready to quit at all. So,
dude, my high yellow test, Sisuk Igor had me and this guy Josh that used to train with us do mountain climbers indefinitely. He was like, just start doing mountain climbers, because like, I don't know when the test is almost over. Like, your test is almost over. Just do mountain climbers while you're waiting. Like, we did all our material. We were waiting to be bowed out.
Wow.
We were waiting for like everybody to be like, all right, everybody stop. The high yellows are done.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And he was like, yeah, just do mountain climbers. And we must have been like, I was like, like 5 minutes of just like, oh my God, please.
5 minutes is a long time for most things, but for mountain climbers is unbelievably long.
That's
tremendously long.
I was just like a triangle with my feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 5 minutes is a long time for any sort of isometric hell, for sure.
Not even isometric. A mountain climbers is when you're like running and your hands are on the buckets. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, but
you're sprinting in place while parallel to the floor.
Oh yeah, but even if you're not moving, if you're isometric, 5 minutes is a lot of time.
Stare at the wall for 5 minutes.
Yeah. On one foot.
Well, that's like even, and too, you realize how taxed your body is even doing simpler things. Like, I remember, I think it was for my black or my red sash test. You know, literally Sigung just had us like holding plank while people were like doing forms, and that's even almost worse than like holding a stance where you're like, oh my God, it's so apparent when you're not doing it. And I literally at that point, I couldn't even do it fully because my like quads were like seizing and pulling from me flexing to get my legs straight. They were just like, he's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, it's in the bone. Lend me a spear. Anyway. But yeah, I just
Ace Ventura reference.
Yeah. It's
100%.
in the bone.
Chicago.
White devil.
Guano. That's a single word. Ace Ventura.
The next
references.
hour is just us just incessantly quoting Ace Ventura.
I just start quoting The Mask, and I'm like, wait, what?
What's happening?
But yeah, so after basics, what happened? Because I don't remember.
Well,
I was outside testing other people. Like, I don't know what happened to John. I had a group. Me and him.
Yeah, we were outside.
Outside testing the beginners.
Well, after
once we got into forms, because we were inside for combos and all the light skill work, and then we went outside for when they did forms. I think. Right?
Oh, I took DJ outside to finish his white sash exam. Which
okay.
2.5 hour, 3 hour white sash exam.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
That guy had one hell of a white sash test.
dude, he was doing kip ups. Like,
he
he's
was.
doing kip-ups.
DJ
He's
was crushing.
He's tremendously talented.
He is.
He's tremendously physically talented. If he doesn't quit, he can go really far.
Yeah.
And I
yeah.
hope he hears this.
He's
100%.
a beast. Absolutely.
100%.
I hope he doesn't hear this, but I hope he hears this.
Fuck that guy.
That's how I feel about the podcast. It's like, oh my god, we have a podcast. That's so cool. It's like, oh my god, people are gonna hear what I have to say. That's so bad.
Hear what's in my brain.
Oh no!
Oh,
People are gonna
no.
know who I am, and I can't walk around with anonymity.
We've got a lot of quiet family dinners ahead of us. So, heard the last episode.
Well, that's the other thing too. It's like, when you start to get money and you start to get famous, and then people start to come out of the woodwork to just be like, hey, in 2017 you said a bad thing to me.
Yeah.
It's
It's like, please, for the love of God.
No, none of that. Please.
None of that.
We will not speak of 2017 specifically.
Not for any reason, though.
Yeah, no,
I'm not
no.
talking. I'm legally
I'm
not.
sorry for 2004. Remember that song?
Just want to
No, I don't.
blow his head into the ceiling. So as
There's
we
one thing that needs to be repainted.
Not
need a
anymore.
lot more of Ed's brains or a lot less ceiling to make that happen.
Right.
So moving into basically, I guess, like form work, because after we go into, hour like 2.5 to 3 is like you like pretty much are through probably your basics. Yeah, because I think we got into basics and it was like 2.5 hours by the time we get into basics. So then from there, we move into combinations, which takes another probably 25-30 minutes, and then you move into light skills across the floor and stuff, and aerials and stuff, and then you split up and you go into your form work. So me and Ed were outside with no sashes and white sashes, I think, and then John was still inside with everyone else doing their forms. So I mean, form work, kind of how did you feel about your forms? How did you feel kind of watching other people do it? Because I also sometimes can that's where also sometimes where the mind can race a little, I find, but not all the time. But
Yeah, that was definitely that was like, probably the most important part of the test, to going out there, making sure I had my stuff, which we actually did come outside. And
yeah, you came out with Nick.
Yeah,
and Laoshih.
Nick and I and Laoshih came outside, and I forget what we were doing beforehand. Like, it really was just like kind of a painful blur a lot of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a hard time remembering most tests.
It's trauma. It's just straight up trauma.
It is.
Well, you're just like the
Yeah.
whole time.
Yeah.
Yep, basically.
Just white knuckled the entire time.
Literally.
But going through my material, I think I've needed to start and stop like twice. Like once on Gunshante, and I think once on Iochuan. And just like, but other than that, I pretty much flew straight through all my material. Like, didn't really get caught up in anything. No mental block. Like one of my last tests, I don't know if it was high yellow or low yellow. I just when we were doing Enbu, I just hit a mental block and I couldn't get through it. But I experienced none of those going through my material, which I was really grateful for, and just really happy to just like, I didn't breeze through it. I don't want to say that, but I certainly got through it with minimal difficulty. And it felt really good. I definitely felt really prepared. And so I did all my stuff first.
Oh, okay.
And then Laoshih went through it with Nick, and Nick was having a hard time on Gunshante, and it was like, it's just like, I've been there, like I watching him like start and stop and like, fuck,
You might get there again. Like our friend Casey almost didn't make it through her purple sash test because she
spear?
broadsword.
Oh, broadsword.
She like couldn't get through broadsword, and you test for broadsword at green sash.
Yeah.
So it was a form she had tested for already, if memory serves. It might have been her green sash test. I was there for that too, but we tested for that together.
Yes.
So I don't think it was her green sash test because we all kind of
We tested for, me and you tested for green and for purple.
the three of us tested for green.
Yeah.
Did she test purple without us? No, we all tested for green and purple together. Yeah. So anyway, regardless, anything can happen at any time to anybody.
Yeah, no, it's I've like I said, I've hit that mental block one of my last tests, and I was lucky enough that I didn't get jammed up on the material this time around. But the thing I said to him was that he knows this already and to read the map in his mind, which I thought was a pretty cool thing to say. It was some cool shit. Read the map in your mind.
Dude, Laoshih says the coolest shit.
He does.
He's got the best one-liners.
Yeah.
The best one-liners.
I think I was just pulling inspiration from him because I'm just.
That's all you do. It's in the dreadlocks. The inspiration just dripping from the dreadlocks.
It's
Every time they whip, it's just like, give me some.
It's
give me some of that energy.
It's true though, because
Cut that. That was bad.
a similar
It sounded bad.
a similar thing happens where, like, when we're helping people with the test, like I was helping so Morgan, who was testing for black, both of her sisters were testing at the same time, I think for green and for red. So I was helping Sydney, who was going for red with her forms, and she was just like, again, similar thing. She was messing up butterflies, and she messed up butterflies probably like 5 times, 6 times. Again, that's another form you learn for green sash. So she had it for 2 tests already. But sometimes just shit like that happens, you know? And I told her too, you know, similar thing. It's like, don't try to, and Sifu Leo said the same thing to her outside. It was like, don't try to think your way through the form. It's like your body knows the form already. Just like you have to relax and just feel the movement, feel what comes next. Your body has the, you know, the context of the move before the one that you're fucking up. It knows what to do next. So stop trying to, because I do the same thing. You know, she was getting ready to show me the form, and I could see her kind of like, and I'm like, are you going through the form in your head? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, just try not to, because that can also be that can also be anxiety inducing. Of like, okay, if I can't do the form start to finish in my head before I have to do it, then I don't know it, and then it fucks you up. You know, so a lot of it is just we know that you know the form. You wouldn't be here if you didn't know the form. We've seen you do the form on your own. So it's just that kind of, you know, with everyone, just like unfucking yourself basically for the test. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of, you know, it's so much of it is mental. I mean, you know, usually for, you know, at the beginning of the test is you'll see people break down in different ways. You know, people are either, you know, they'll start like breathing really heavy. You see them kind of just zoning out, or they're almost fainting, or people, you know, like I think on the last 2 tests, you know, Morgan and, you know, Sydney were like, you know, crying, you know, at the beginning of the test, because it's just, you're like, it's so much buildup and there's so much anxiety, and and also you're under so much physical stress, and you're gripping with all of that happening in the first hour of like a multi-hour test that you have to fight at the end of it for. So it's so emotionally
The
and
whole
mentally
day you're like,
grueling.
oh my God, I have so much more to do.
Yeah.
I think 3 people puked. Yeah, it's either 3 people or 2 people puked twice. Watching Nick and see what he was going through, just like, I've already, like, I was there already. They told me I'm definitely going to be there again. It happens to everybody, you know, just hitting that mental block and not being able to break through it.
Potentially.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's anything can happen, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm past that. I'm just lucky, and I'm prepared enough that.
Oh, you know, I'm not saying that. I'm just giving you, you know, my take as somebody who's been through it.
Yeah. And so, you know, I cheered him on, you know, and he got through it. You know, we both survived, and yeah, it was. I mean, like I said, I felt like I really did prepare enough, and I was able to just like bust down the forms, really get through them. Mm-hmm. And Laoshih said I did a good job, so you know, felt good. And then, like, you know, it was, and like I said, even though I powered through it, and I'm not trying to say I breezed through all of this at all, because there's nothing easy about an authentic challenge test. Mm-hmm. There's nothing easy about it whatsoever. So it was as easy as I'm making it, like, you know, appear. Yeah, it was a long day, and you know, it's a lot of mental fortitude goes into that. Which you're
speaking more to, also, I think, you know, to your credit, you're speaking more about, like, I think your mental game and state with the test more than anything. Right?
Mentally, I really felt like I was killing it.
Yeah,
you
and
know,
that's completely okay to be proud of.
Yeah,
you know, that's important to be proud of, because that's one of the main things.
Feel bad all the time. Always feel bad.
If you're gonna take anything away from me and Ed, always feel bad.
Always feel terrible.
Life is suffering, and so you must suffer. Embrace the suffering.
Never feel good, because then you have ego, and ego is bad.
Right. Life is suffering, and you want to fit in, right? So just suffer.
Yep.
Like everyone else.
Then everything
Just
gets
complain.
better.
Yeah.
And don't vote in your local elections, and complain about why things don't change. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Complain about how much parking meters are, and then never vote. just yell into the atmosphere. Fucking town representative.
You know what this needs? A bumper sticker. That's gonna change things.
That's what it needs.
Look at how good my beliefs are. Here's my coexist bumper sticker.
Yeah.
Look how tolerant I am. Everybody should live together, except for those guys.
Except for the people who don't tolerate.
Except for the people that I'm intolerant of.
Yeah.
Just so you know, the sticker shows that there's a baby on board, but if you read the fine print, it means that I'm going to slow down to 5 miles an hour to make a right turn without a blinker on. It's like, God damn it!
You're just like powering down as they're trying to turn.
It's like,
there's a baby on board.
Somebody should put baby on board bumper sticker on a garbage truck and then write probably.
I'm just gonna put my baby in a helmet and just like let it fucking.
It's like
whatever.
It's like when I see people making a right like that, I'm like, is the baby driving?
Yeah.
Is the baby the one operating the vehicle? God damn it! It's just fucking.
Is there a baby limit on this vehicle?
How many babies can I put in here?
There's a baby
There's
ordinance.
a baby on board, or are there babies on board?
Babies.
Or maybe they've been boarded by babies. They're pirate babies.
A bus full of bus boarding babies.
Oh man, it's a hijacking.
Bus boarding, buccaneering babies.
Oh no, we're getting to alliterations now.
No.
Swashbuckling, bus boarding, pirate babies.
It all has to start with bees. Bus boarding babies.
Maybe they're bushwhacking. Maybe they're bushwhacking as well.
Busboarding Buccaneer babies.
Busboarding, buccaneer bushwhacking, bombastic babies.
If another B word is brain damage, which I'm certain we are at this point.
Getting some of that.
I'm in pain. I'm really
I don't
hurting right
feel
now.
good.
Oh God.
Anyway.
For some reason, I'm bloating from this. This is making me bloat.
What does that mean about me?
You may be bloating, but my brain is swelling.
John has voluntary meningitis because of this conversation.
My cerebral fluid is in my feet.
Anybody else smell toast?
Oh no, John's having a stroke.
So, after
Welcome back to the Martial Line Podcast.
So now that we've gotten forms out of the way, we get to the juicier part of the day, which is the self-defense and the sparring.
Which case, I'm glad I didn't get to work with you for the self-defense because grabbing onto you would have been just like I might have drowned, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like wrestling with like a walrus at that point. It's just
that's
emerged.
still in the water.
John looks like he just came
basically.
out of a pool.
Yeah.
Like he jumped in a pool in his clothes.
I was like, what, you guys haven't been in the pool on the roof?
Yeah.
John was just texting and just walked and like fell into a lake by accident. Just,
Yeah, at a mini golf course. It just fell off the little bridge. And I sweat a lot when I train, and certainly
We have to
happened in the
mop
test.
under him.
literally. And between we have two Johns that sweat incessantly at our school, and it is John Gordon.
They splash.
Yeah,
if they
it's-
like block each other, they splash.
It's the Johns.
literally.
It's water bending.
Yeah.
It's
Especially
salt
my
water
shoes.
bending. Literally, there was a day. I think it was was it the Friday before the test, or I don't remember what day it was. And we're bowing out, and Nick looks at you, and there was sweat coming out of your shoes. And he goes, "Are you sweating through your feet?
Yeah.
Your shoes are wet. Like it was like standing in a puddle."
Yeah. We were just standing there lining up. So
Yeah.
that sweat came out.
It
of
was
my
after
shoes.
class, and he was just lining up to bow out. He's just literally standing there, and he's just still dripping. We have to refrigerate the room before we record, so he doesn't get too wet.
Yeah, before we're doing
recording. There's literally an AC right behind that camera, and I'm always miserable. I'm sitting here shivering and miserable while we're trying to
John's
get the
just
shots for
barely
the
not
cameras.
sweating.
And I come in here one day. And we're like mostly set up, and John is sitting here on like I think like a Nintendo Switch or something like that, with a fan strung around his neck, just blowing on his face with the air conditioner on. I'm like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm just a little warm."
Yeah, I mean, and I also so I shaved before this episode, and the last half of that shower, because I shave and I shower, was a cold shower.
Like most people do.
Yes, yeah, shower and shave. It was a cold shower, and I still need to change my shirt twice. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you setting up furniture. You setting
John
up.
building furniture. That furniture's gonna like dilapidate. Like it needs to be sealed before he puts it together. He can never woodwork because the wood would rot before the furniture was done.
I can't work with balsa wood. It just like curls up. It's like,
Yeah. All these planks are waterlogged. What happens here? I'm sorry. I don't know what
it's like,
happened.
what are we building?
And
Everything's
John, it's
frozen.
it's October. He's like naked. He's like, I'm sorry. I'm just so sweaty.
I'm on the
can-
verge of a huge stroke.
Pretty much the only month I need to wear pants is February. Besides that, I could just wear shorts. Yeah, I'm a polar bear.
What do you guys want to talk about? What are you guys thinking?
Just thinking about airplanes and
All
stuff.
right, so self-defense. Now, I have to say, self-defense in our school is very direct. It's not flashy. There aren't a million slaps and a million techniques to do. And,
Yeah.
you know, like I understand like a lot of places, they're doing things to demonstrate all the different things you can do in different positions, which is good to know in case somebody's fighting you and you have to think of on the fly of something else to do. That being said, there's also certain things that don't make any sense. Like if somebody's just standing there and you pull them this way and then pull them back that way and then pull them this way and they have done nothing to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense in the context of a self-defense technique. It would make sense if you pull them this way and then they step and go to punch, but you still have a grip. And you know what I mean? Like that's the context in which things make sense.
Just spontaneously do the Cotton Eye Joe.
You're just line dancing with them.
Dude, I broke my nose when I was a kid square dancing.
That is something you keep to yourself.
That's a story. I'll tell at a later time.
That's a story you should
stay
never
tuned.
tell.
We're gonna go over
You're
that
actually
like a
gonna-
speed bump.
You're actually going to regret that you told me that.
I was
So,
I was 8 years old. I don't know what you want me to tell you. You know, when you bow to each other, the kid bowed and then shot his head back up and smashed the back of his head into my face. And
You're
broke
just
my
behind
nose.
him like, hey, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, bro.
Anyway, so hence the schnoz bend. You know,
Oh, yes.
that's where
Bend
my
your schnoz.
crooked schnoz comes from. I wasn't so guinea yet, but it just like grew into
The issue
like,
the issue was Ed was behind him, tenderly holding his hips. As he backed up. He thought he was in front of him bowing, and then he wasn't.
Hey, your hair smells pretty good.
Whack. I was in summer camp, and they were like, "We're gonna do square dancing today," and we're like, "That sucks. Why can't we rollerblade?" And then I got my fucking nose broken.
That's what you get.
Yeah.
Square dancing, the doing math of dancing.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
So it was particularly challenging. I helped John. We did like we were in the park for like 2 hours one day, and we were just going over his self-defense list and making the details more finite. Now, when you were going through your self-defense, how did you feel after it? Like, how did you feel going through your techniques?
Well, it was I was working with Nick, so when we got partnered up, it kind of started off a little shaky because he had done all of his practicing with Yachty, and he was like, "Oh, I got to do my stuff with Yachty." And I was like, I worked with a bunch of people. I worked with you. I worked with Elmore. I worked with a bunch of different guys, and so I'm just like, I'm cool with whoever, you know. And so it's like he was obviously very nervous about it, which is making me a little nervous, just because, like, you know, it's a lot. It's difficult. But once we started, like, I went first, and that was like a big plunge. Like, that was just, it was easily the part I was the most scared of already, or the most nervous about, because I had definitely prepared it the least.
It's also a good experience for a test for you to be able to, both for forms and for self-defense, that you went first for everything. That's like a good. Yeah. That's like a good good experience to be exposed to.
Yeah, it was. 100%. Yeah, that wasn't easy at all. It was definitely. It takes bravery to
100%
to do that.
Yeah, I don't always do that either. I'm like very like, I'll go after that. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I not all the time, but like it's not an easy thing to do that.
Yeah, it was certainly difficult, and so we just dove right in, and like I lost count. I just kind of went through everything. I never stopped. I think I got hung up maybe once or twice, maybe on like a headlock or a bear hug or something, just like because we don't really practice a lot of those techniques regularly, like getting attacked with a bear hug or with a headlock, you know. So I think I stopped and started like, wait, no, let me do this again. But then Sifu Rafi started just like telling Nick to do other random attacks, and at that point I was just going, you know, I was just doing everything.
Kind of like an autopilot, trying to do your best, right?
Yeah, at that point, like, I don't know if I did anything twice or 3 times. I don't think I did, because Rafi didn't say, "Oh, I saw that already," you know, do that again.
Sifu doesn't stop you, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I might have done north of 50 moves, like, altogether.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Especially for Orange, because I think you only need, like, 25 for Orange.
Yeah, it was way more than 25, that's for awesome. Sure. And I just, like, at that point when Rafi was just calling out, I was just going, you know, and I made sure to vary it as much as I could, and, I mean, you know, I did the best I could, and then until he stopped me, you know, there was no, like, you know, I really just entered that, you know, autopilot. Then Nick went, and you know, he was nervous about the whole thing too, and you know, throwing me around is not easy, you know, especially when you go from Yachty, who's like, you know, like what, 5'3", you know, maybe $110 soaking wet, maybe less, you know, and then here I am, my 6'2", 260, 270 self, just like, yeah, have fun, you know, and Nick did well, you know. It was definitely, like, both of us, it was just, that was easily the hardest part up to that point that we experienced, and I got through it. I felt like I did really well, all things considered, and you know, and like I said, mentally I really was just in that same vein most of the test of just like, here we are, let's get through this, you know, like we're here, time to party, you know, it's time to put, you know, make all that work that we put into this show. So, you know, it didn't, like, up until that point, I was feeling really good. Well, just past that point, I mean, which we all know what the next part is.
Yeah, sparring.
Yeah,
sparring is definitely scary. I remember just even.
I'm sorry, by the way.
We'll get into that in a sec. But just to put it into perspective, I mean, I remember, you know, think about it. You know, the mental tax that you get from knowing that you have to spar. I mean, it was no different from the tournament. You know, it was like, we gotta do all these fucking forms, and now we gotta fucking fight people that we don't know, who are definitely gonna try to either hurt us or knock us out, and we have to do the same to them, basically. And
again in April, if anybody's listening to this.
Oh yeah.
Sifu has announced I don't know the date off the top of my head.
It's like April 4th. It's in like the first like 10 days of April, I think.
Okay.
And I will be competing this time, so it's gonna be dope.
It's gonna be good. But yeah, we already. I mean, it's cool. It's less than a year away already. It's like
We should just sign up already, so he's already got people.
Yeah,
on the thing,
it's like 8 months. It's crazy.
Maybe he could put together a super heavyweight division, so I'm not alone.
There's John fighting two smaller people at the same time.
Well, if I'm 215, we might end up fighting each other. That's the other thing. Like it's in poor form. I feel personally, it's in poor form to just beat the ever loving shit out of somebody and try to knock out somebody that you train with every day.
Yeah. I that to me is just not. I don't like doing that. I wanna fight people who aren't in our school. That's really what I want to do.
Yeah, because it's hard to I can imagine it's hard to put down the mental barrier, of just like, we see each other like sometimes multiple times a week, we're buddies. It's like, I don't want to hurt you, And it's like,
it's a weird thing.
Even training
with you,
it's like, I wouldn't want to do that. Competing, like you can't enter that competing mode if it's your buddy, right?
Yeah. I feel like it's a good precedent to have. Similar thing of like, what was it like?
Like I was hitting you hard on the test, but I wasn't hitting you with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it was certainly enough.
but I remember going into, I think it was, I was sparring you.
You were tired though.
I was sparring you for my first round on my red sash test, and I remember coming over to you and I was just like, I'm gonna get knocked out. You were like, all right, then you're gonna get knocked out. Like just like typical like perfect Ed response. Like, all right, then fuck you. You're gonna get knocked out. I don't give a fuck. Like, fine. If you're gonna have that attitude, you're gonna get knocked. But no, but it was like if you're gonna have that attitude, then yeah, that could happen. But that's how I was going into that was you're just so like, how am I gonna fucking, and especially that test too, I got the shit kicked out of me that test, pretty bad.
Your red sash test? Oh yeah,
I got the piss beat out of me.
Can confirm.
Yeah, that was John was filming that one, but yeah, so going into sparring, getting ready, especially after you finish self-defense, now waiting. That's the other thing too. You finish that. And you have to wait, and you were saying, like, stay warm. Because that's the thing, too. I've had tests where, like, this test, they don't do it every test. Some tests, they'll give you, like, a 15, 20-minute break of, like, hey, eat something, don't throw up, and don't sit down too much. And I, like, sat for a while. I'm like, yeah.
When did you get your high yellow? Last summer? Or this winter?
I feel like
it was a summer test.
It was a summer test?
I think all my tests were in the summer.
So it was a year ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, having a test like that where I sat for too long, and then your body's like, and then you're like, all right, now that you're fossilized, time to finish the next third of the test.
So that was what my black sash test was like, because it was like they wanted me to do 10 rounds in the ring of fire. So I did 6 rounds outside.
Usually it's the other way. Usually it's 10 and 6.
Which I think it depends on how many people are testing. So like they wanted me to do 10 rounds in the ring of fire, and I had to do, so I did 6 rounds outside of, where I just got lit up, know, and then I had to wait for everybody else to go because I was the only one going for black, and Logan was going for red. So he did 6 rounds. He only had 4 rounds to do with a ring, So like, and that what the Ring of Fire is like, yeah, it's just you versus fresh people again and again and again. So it's not like when everybody's sparring and like that person is also coming out of 3 rounds of just sparring or whatever it is, like that person's just been sitting around waiting to kick your ass for the past however long.
Yeah.
Just getting tagged in fresh. Yeah,
literally getting passed around by like 5 or 6 black belts.
And it was basically like, and you have one person being like, all right, make sure you're stretched out, make sure you're warm. And then somebody else comes up to you, but don't overstretch, because if you stretch too much, you're going to hurt yourself. And then, oh, by the way, don't do too much because you're going to waste all your energy, but also don't cool down too much because then you're going to be really tired when you go in. And it's
have
like,
a Cliff Bar. Is that a Cliff Bar?
Yeah.
Like, please!
Yeah, no, I experienced a good amount of that too. Like after the self-defense, I actually helped out with Elmore doing his stuff because they wanted to swap out like Elmore's original partner with me. I don't know what was going on or who it was, but
might have been too small.
It might have been.
Might want to see somebody and pick on somebody his own size, And
here I am.
He's like
boy.
He's like 6'2".
Yeah, no, he's about my height, but about 33% less heavy than me.
Yeah.
So I
think somebody deflate.
Yeah, just enough.
Just a little bit. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, here we
are.
You
left it out for too long. Oh shit! You put it back.
Just like hang him over the porch, like. But I worked with Elmore. At that point, I started to really like, I knew I was reaching the end of my capacity. I like working with Elmore. I was a little slow to get up. It's exhausting getting tossed. Getting thrown around really takes a lot.
By that
out
point
of
in the day, I mean, just the effort to get back up continuously, and then once you get back up to need to keep fighting and defend yourself, it's a lot.
Yeah, and
it's a lot. It takes a lot of energy to get back up.
It really, that's when I started to feel it, and then we were sitting in the Floating Lotus and all that, like waiting some more.
Just
But,
more isometric exercises while you're waiting.
Yeah, and which I could barely hold at that point. But one thing that I was really like, I feel like I did really well too, was was with hydration and nutrition, because I never cramped up, and I never felt like I was gonna puke, and I never felt too hungry or anything. I just had like maybe like 2 Cliff Bars throughout the day.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. I mean, obviously you hang out with us, and like we've been through the rigmarole, and we're like Andrew Huberman nerds, so we like fucking have no real education, but like think we've learned enough online to give you good advice on stuff, which you take. You know, it's funny, like John uses grass-fed butter now. I was like, why don't you use grass-fed butter? And he was like, why should I? I'm like, it's better for you. Now all of a sudden there's grass-fed butter. He's taking Athletic Greens. He's doing like all this shit. Like he sees us experiment with stuff and see it work for us, and he's like, all right, I'll do that too. And it's just like totally willing to change what he does. There's other, I'm not gonna call anybody out by name, but like there were people on the test, like the first 2 hours of the test, they're just like cramped. Like sitting there, I was a massage therapist for like an hour out of that day, like working on people's legs and helping people out, because it's like they forget. It's like, oh yeah, well I had electrolytes last night. It's like, yeah, but you lost them all in the past hour.
Yeah,
you know, you lost them
2 hours.
You have to keep putting
like
electrolytes and water back into you, otherwise you're gonna end up. You're just like.
At one point, I was really thirsty. I remember just like, I really need a fucking water break. But like I said, I didn't cramp up. I really felt no stress that way. Once I was able to get that water break, I didn't drink too much. I felt like I did at one point, but then it immediately subsided. I was like, did I just drink too much water? No, I think I'm good. And I was good.
John's skin and pores will take care of that excess water. No problem.
Immediately flush it out.
Yeah, so for somebody like him who loses as much water as he does to not cramp, that means you definitely were.
And I had to
prepared in that
you know. Like, again, like for my test, I think it was for my black sash test, I remember my throat being, like, not actually burned, but, like, burning from, like, the amount of, like, liquid IV that I was drinking. Like, from the salt and the sugar, it was, like, my throat probably looked like a town pipe. Like a town, like, water main. Just, like, you know, like, it's just...
Just like the bottom of the gutter. Like,
just, like, sediment and algae.
Yeah. Like, blue-green algae. Just see the bottom... But yeah, for sparring, there's a lot of anxiety that goes into that. Because out of everything, like, everything else during the day is basically like, it's a different feeling of fear, because it's like, it's just like exhaustion, but like this is like you worrying, like it's just this real primal, like I'm going to get hurt or someone's trying to hurt me fear. And it really is a different, like you can really shut down from that. Like pretty bad. And again, just like I said, like me coming into that test, like I felt much more confident going into my black test than I did my red. Red was just like, let's just fucking get through it, and then black will be better. I mean, it was definitely, because I took my own advice, but so like even that was sparring and like self defense and like getting attacked, for self defense, like red to black. Those two tests were like very different for me in regards to like mental space, where I was at, and things like that. But in saying that. Yeah, I mean, for you going into sparring, I gotta say, for your first time sparring, first of all, you did really well. You really did. Because I basically
first time sparring on a test. Obviously, he's sparred before. Yeah.
Because so for me as well, what was it? 2 weeks ago, I hurt my hamstring a little bit, so I unfortunately was not able to spar. I was basically watching and helping to proctor and filming actually, so I got good footage of stuff for sparring especially. Yeah, watching and me getting to watch you spar, you didn't gas out as quick as I thought you might have for sparring, especially at that far into the test. You kept your control and your composure. Yeah, especially as you started getting like walloped a little bit more, you started to, especially as you're getting hit in the midsection, it just affects your breathing. But I gotta say, especially for someone of your size, you do have for your size, your skill level, and being that far into a level of exhaustion, you kept very good control and composure. For especially the first, for your sparring. So, but in saying that, you probably had one of the hardest first sparring tests worth of sparring that like I've seen, probably.
Yeah,
I would say in my personal experience, like you got walloped pretty bad.
Yeah,
I'd say
that was rough, dude. So
and not just because of you, because of other people.
It was a group effort.
Yeah. So Sifu Rafi did split the mountain directly on his head.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that, but he was sparring him and John was just standing there and Rafi just went whoosh and he just went out of frame. He just dropped. He literally smashed him into the floor and he just fell.
Yeah. No, at that point, so basically
just splitting the wood, and the wood is John.
Hey, he's scary.
that was
He's
my
horrifying.
That was my second round. So
but let's take us through the sparring for you.
yeah, man.
Start to
So
finish.
basically, mentally, I was like ready to go. Like just really foot on the gas the whole day. And Blake comes up to me and he's like, "All right, Gordo, me and you." I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." And me and Blake have sparred before.
Pick
and,
another person who's tired. That's what you start with.
and I was just
Let's
like,
just take a
"Cool,
break
man.
for a
Like,
sec.
I'm not gonna try to gas you out, and you're not gonna try to gas me out. This is gonna be great." And then Sifu Leo steps in like, "Gordo, me and you. Blake, get the fuck out of here."
Yeah,
And I'm like,
fuck off. It's like,
I'm like, oh boy, considering Sifu Leo is he's hard. First of all, he's hard to please. Like, he's not gonna kiss your ass ever, and if you suck, he's gonna say you suck. And I knew he was gonna push me.
yeah,
And
he's also fucking very scary.
He's one
Yeah.
on my purple sash test. I'm like, he's like, if you keep dropping that right hand, I'm gonna knock you out. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Sifu, or I think it was Laoshih at the time. And then he's like, I'm telling you, if you keep dropping that hand, I'm gonna knock you out. And I'm like, yes, Laoshih. And then I just dropped the hand again, and boop. And I just remember seeing white and waking up in front of the heater.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude. And so,
but I tell you,
so with Sifu Leo and like considering, like I knew it was gonna be hard. I'm like, oh fuck no. So I really, really like gave it everything I could that first round. I left it all on the mat, and I felt like I did pretty well. I was stuffing his kicks. I think I had okay head movement. I was landing combinations, but there were moments where like I would stop and I'd see him and I knew that he was kind of waiting for me to come in because I just pictured him just pouncing on me like a tiger, and I'm like, he could have just killed me right there. Time to do something. Like, he could have just killed me right here.
Multiple times of just seeing that. I'm like, I could have died.
Yeah, there's multiple moments of just like, that's an opening. Like, I'm vulnerable here. And then there was another point where he landed a reverse right under my sternum, and he did it again, like right at like twice. And I was like, all right, time to do something. And so he threw that reverse, and I pressured down and ended a roundhouse kick, basically sort of a combination of Tekken 1, but with a reverse punch. Mm-hmm. So I swept it, and I roundhouse kicked, and it was sort of a blur of a round, but like I felt like I did really well. Left it all on the mat. Round 2 comes. I'm like, maybe I could fight somebody like Elmore or Vega. Nope.
Yeah.
No, didn't
like
happen.
A child. Maybe if I could fight a child.
Maybe just bring in a stranger that can't fight. So this is easier. And it was Sifu Rafi, and he's like just a terrifying.
He's like benching 275. That guy is just he's just a giant peck.
It's like you go from like Sifu Leo, who like, man, like watching him like especially spar you and just like seeing like how he moves and like how he was like hitting you. It was just like every round, each round I was like, oh, it's like, oh, what the fuck, god damn. Like I was just like watching, just hearing like him and everyone else just hit your stomach. It was just like a gong. It was like
it took quite a beating. Quite a beating.
And then you got to Sifu Rafi, and that was just again another.
Yeah, big time. So
another not good round.
Just get sent through the dryer, man. So
with like a brick in it, with you. Just.
But I did feel like Sifu Leo was sparring me, like he was hitting me, But there were moments where I knew that he was just kind of like, all right, well I could have just died there, Sifu Rafi, those moments were filled with death. Like it was, he was on me, And
he's letting you know what it's really like.
I think I got knocked down maybe 2 or 3 times by Sifu Rafi that I can remember.
Yeah.
Hit the mat a few times. He split the mountain on me, and I just remember him disappearing, and then I'm on the mat. But we got through it. At this point, I'm barely able to protect my midsection. I'm just trying to keep my hands up. And this is my opening. This is the hardest part for me to defend because I have to just move. At that point. But anyway, we get through the round. At this point, I'm gassed out. I'm basically dead. And guess who I'm fighting round 3? Your boy right here.
Hi.
And,
hey, everybody.
And I was barely able to hold my hands up. I was pretty much like, I hope it looked better than it felt because I was just like not.
The third round, it was a little rough.
It was pretty rough.
I mean, outside perspective, it was a little rough.
Yeah, I figured as much.
Your composure was having a hard time by the third round, which is to be expected.
Yeah.
To be expected.
Because, like, not only did I leave it all on the mat with Sifu Leo, then I'm just in survival mode with Rafi. And then I'm just like, there's barely anything left to round 3, and I got to work with that.
Corpse.
No,
Dude, I couldn't tell you what the sparring was like on my orange sash test. It's out of my brain.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I literally don't even remember that for mine.
Yeah, man. So I mean, that was that was a rough one.
Those were some rough shots. I gotta say, you were hitting with some rough shots.
Yeah, I got rocked.
What?
Nothing.
I mean, Ed landed this one reverse punch right under my sternum again. That sent me. Like just
to the shadow realm,
just crying to the ground, like on the ground. Yeah, it was bad. It was very, very painful.
And Sifu literally said at one point, because I think between Sifu, Rafi, and Ed, I think you probably fell like 4 or 5 times, and Sigon was literally like, if you fall again, I'm adding a fucking round, so stay up.
Yeah. No, he said if you fall down again, I'm gonna make you work another round. So, and I knew I didn't have another round in me because I didn't.
I barely have this round in me.
Yeah, I didn't have that round in me. I was just, I was just like,
I don't have another one because I don't have this one.
I don't really have this one.
What do you, exactly? So but I know what it is. Like I know what that meant, and it's just you're in survival mode, and that's all I was trying to do.
You're a big guy. You're a big guy.
Yeah.
It's important for you to not feel invincible.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's really easy for somebody like you. Everybody is like, John, you're like made of cement. Like, look at this motherfucker right here. It's important for you to realize that you're not invulnerable.
Well, and it's the one big glaring thing is my stamina. I need to get my cardio up if I want to fight more than 3 rounds, especially.
And you got to do more core because the stronger your core is and the more you condition your core, the easier it is for you to take those kinds of shots or to know how to turn away from them, how to turn out of them.
Because also, if your core is not strong and you're getting hit like that will also take percentages off your cardio in that moment anyway. Because I mean, you can't expand as much. Your diaphragm is spasming. Like it's just you're not able to, and also you're just hurting. So it's just like to try to deep breathe and stuff, and keep your heart rate slow and keep calm. It's a lot in that moment.
It was a lot, and but we slogged right through it. And I was feeling that probably for the next like 2 or 3 days. Specifically.
I also wanted to know, this may not be possible right now, but and if they would be cool with this, but like I literally have all 3 of John's rounds like on my phone. Like I have video of them if you wanted to like watch them, but I don't know if that's okay.
And there's also tournament stuff that we could put, like forms and stuff that we could cut together. We just got to talk to Sifu about like what he wants to put up and what he doesn't want to put up.
I would also like love again probably.
But the other thing is though too is like John's at the end of a 8-hour test. It's not supposed to look good. So then you put that out there online, and then you're gonna have to deal with backlash. People being like, "This motherfucker doesn't know how to fight." You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
like, somebody. So yeah, you're at the end of a test. It's about survival. It's about showing what you can do under extreme duress and extreme exhaustion. And some people have always asked what the point of all that is. Why not come back fresh when you can do better? And it's like that's not the point. The point is to be unfresh. Right. The point is to be in the biggest disadvantage that you possibly can be, and then still succeed and still show that you can survive. Battles and wars last for days. They don't last for 12 hours. They don't last for 8 hours. They last sometimes for days. You talk about soldiers being up for 36, 48 hours, shooting at people, fighting people, doing what they have to do. We're thinking about that. We're not thinking about not that literally, but you know what I mean. Like just like. How to synthesize as much as we can without killing anybody, or without leaving you disfigured. So, like, nobody's, like, hitting you with everything, but you're getting hit.
Yeah.
You're supposed to keep your composure and fight because you're exhausted. If you got to go home and refresh yourself and come back fresh, like, then how can you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you did a lot of the multiple days. And the other thing is people got to work.
Right.
So you can't spread it out over 3, 4, 5 days like they used to in the past because you got to call out of work. We got to do it around your schedule and make it a test all about you. No, it's not about that. It's about doing it as a family and doing it together. And then when you put stuff like that online, you just get a lot of idiots. And I'm okay with the idiots. The question is like, would you be okay with that? And is that something that Sifu would want out there? Because then you have an entire martial arts system that is like firing guns against, you know what I mean, other people's opinions over something they don't understand. Because the visitors that came to my test were like, oh, one kid, he got hit in the head and he fell down. His test should have been over at that point. And like, oh, I don't understand. Like, you weren't showing like real excellent techniques. So like, I don't understand why they didn't let you go and come back fresh. And it's like, that's not the point.
No,
that's not the point at all. And you take from that what you will, and you learn from it.
So all in all, it was, after. So like, I'll tell you guys about like, because you guys got all caught up in the rigmarole afterwards, and I had to disappear to a corner and melt. So I basically found a nice little spot to just like, sort of, like I said, melt. And a time, like I think an hour passed before I really knew what was going on. I was really just done.
After the test?
Like after the sparring, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because you came over and you took my headgear off and my gloves off, and I just needed to sit and just like,
just like pass away for a minute.
Literally.
It was just allow time to pass before I can get up again, and I went over to the Ring of Fire, I believe was happening by that point, and Sifu Leo was standing there. And, I just went over to him and I was like, Sifu, like, just want to thank you for working with me, on my test. It was, I really appreciate the experience of getting to spar with you. And he's like, Gordo, I got to talk to you. And I was like, okay, shoot. And he was like, listen, man, I came over to you just like, let's work with Gordo. Let's see. Does Gordo suck dick? Does he suck or what? And yeah, it's true. He's like, does Gordo suck or what? He's like, because I never got to work with you in this capacity. And he's like, I got to tell you what, man. He's like, you don't suck at all. And he's like, you should be really proud of yourself. And I think he said that he's really looking forward to the kind of martial artist I'm going to become in 10 years because I'm not allowed to quit.
Yeah.
And I was like,
he will
wow.
find you.
Yeah.
And so will I.
And so just like knowing Sifu Leo and knowing that he doesn't say nice things often, like with the full intention of, pushing to really, work harder and to be the best he could be, like it just really was worthwhile to me. It really kind of put a super
That's
big
awesome.
cherry on top. Like, wow, like Sifu Leo just said something nice to me. This is dope.
Awesome.
So felt really good. And even though, it was just like, I was at the end of my rope. I had nothing left. I think that's kind of part of why it was a good test, that I reached my limits and I pushed past them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it wasn't pretty, but it was awesome. I really I enjoyed that very much as it
That's
was
awesome.
very painful.
That's a good way to end the test.
Yeah.
100%. So, we are super proud of you. We really are. We were also impressed. And, we were also very excited to see the martial artist that you become. So,
Thank you, buddy.
you're welcome. Very proud of you, dude. You did awesome.
Thanks.
So, boys?
That's what I said to you as soon as the round was over. So I was just like, I felt like such a bully because I'd be like, pop, and then he'd hit the floor and I'd just stand there bouncing. And then he'd get back up and I'd like, pop, and just same punch over and over again because you just keep leaving that midsection open. Your elbows flare. And so your elbows flare and you're having a hard time protecting yourself. And then you're still doing this because you're tired. And it's like, all right. Pop, and I felt like such a bully because I must have knocked you down at least 2 times. But I was so happy that you just kept getting back up and kept fighting and kept throwing at me and you didn't just give up and put your hands down. Because there was somebody else who was testing who I was literally screaming at while we were sparring. I'm like, every time, if you don't put your fucking hands up, I'm going to fuck you up. This is legitimately what I said to the kid. I'm like, if you don't put your fucking hands up and fight back, I'm going to fuck you up.
And he says kid because he was 6. So
This is
Jerry,
the
you fucking
kids.
piece of
This
shit.
is the kids test we were talking about. No, because I'm fucking old, and anybody who's under the age of 25 is a kid to me.
Yeah.
But, what was I saying? Attention, you can't do that to me. Attention deficit disorder. Oh, yeah. So, because, his hands were just down, and he was just so tired, he was just giving up, and I didn't see that from you.
Yeah.
And I was expecting that from you, honestly. I was kind of worried. I was like, I don't see how this is going to go. And you really showed up for yourself. And I was like, I hugged him right afterwards, which was regrettable because he was wet. And
I give him the wettest
I
hugs.
immediately got ringworm
And
all over my body.
I hugged him afterwards and just said it, into your ear. I'm like, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy that you did this, or whatever I said, but something to that effect,
Yeah.
And I was just super happy with your performance. I want to be scared of you. I want to be scared to step in front of you because when you hit bags, it's frightening.
It is.
So you need to be able to have the wind to move around and have that kind of technique. No, excuse me. Not that you should try to kill somebody that you're sparring with in your own school. You know what I mean? But I mean, you can hit, you can do. John clipped me in the other John Elmore.
Yeah.
He just came straight in with an overhand and just clipped me right in the jaw. I didn't see it coming. I literally didn't see it coming. It was just boom, boom, and I was like, all right, and then I just let go of a valley, and then I got in trouble.
I think he had 2 black eyes.
He did.
He did. He got 2 eye jammies. I don't
did.
know how many of them were from me, but I think one of them was.
I was going to say, it sounds like one of them was from you.
One of them could be from Ed's hand. We're not 100% sure.
Elmore fucked around and found out.
No, he did great. He really did great. He
He did
tested
awesome.
for his
Oh, yeah.
red shirt, had to do 10 rounds, had to do some rounds in the Ring of Fire,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, Elmore's a beast. So
Yes.
he fucked around and found out. We're all in this shit, dude. We're all in this
here's
shit.
another thing a point I want to make, because I think you said what you wanted to say about the test. Is there anything else you want to add? I have to say about Elmore, and because I think he listens to the show, so I want him to hear this. He is so impressive. Obviously, he talks all the time about the things he needs to work on, the things he needs to improve. But he is so impressive because he lives in Arizona, and we're in New York.
Yeah.
And he does all of his training online. And because he makes it real in his mind, because he invested in himself and he put mats on the floor and he bought a heavy bag. He does the work. He pays attention to what we do in class. He makes it real in his mind. He trains what he can train. He does his forms. He does everything that he has to do. And I have to say, the fighting wasn't half bad. He was not half bad at sparring. He just makes the commitment to show up and make the trip to New York for the more advanced tests. Which
He was up here for like 3 weeks before the test.
If you do decide to train on Zoom, remember that any difficulty that you're having with it is because you're not figuring it out. You know, like if you're having trouble hearing over the speaker, speak up. Let us know, hey, I couldn't hear that. You know, if you're having trouble with something, let us know. So if you're considering training via Zoom, make the commitment to do it. You know, if you can commit to the time, if you can commit to it, you can make it work for you, then do so 100%. Because he's a prime example of somebody who's just like got no quit in him, and he's going to figure out, because it's important to him, and he's going to figure out exactly how to make it happen. And he was nervous about the sparring and the self-defense.
Yeah, he was.
And he just took all his vacation time.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but he took a good chunk of his vacation time. And he came up 2 weeks before the test. And he was in class every night and drilled everything he had to do with as many people as he possibly could. Took private lessons when he possibly could. And, you know, yes, it's a financial commitment. Yes, it's a time commitment. But everything is a commitment. Anything that you want to do is going to be a commitment.
True.
So if you're going to commit to something, commit to it.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something, do it. And if you make mistakes, forgive yourself and move on.
That's part of doing it.
That's part of doing it, because you're going to make mistakes, and nobody's perfect, and nobody is this perfect being encapsulated in glass, and everybody makes mistakes. You just got to, you know, make a conscious effort to not repeat the patterns that hold you back.
And if you are pristine, you're not living.
Right. Nobody is pristine.
You're not living.
Nobody is pristine.
Was that a knight with shining armor never had his metal tested?
Yeah, exactly. I like that a lot. Say that again. Say it again, Joe.
A knight in shining armor has never truly had his metal tested.
Like saying it like you're trying to like win me over.
Yeah.
Like, say it like I'm
say
like,
we're out to dinner. We just had a couple glasses of wine.
I
You're
don't
trying to
know.
impress me. You know what I mean?
just like
I can't do that because I'm nervous now.
well, John, you're not living, bro. You got to step
man.
up to the plate and win the girl.
He's been with the same woman for way too long.
Yeah, I know.
He can just be himself.
Yeah.
How dare you just be yourself, John?
Sorry, dude.
My bad.
So
Oopsie.
I was
listen,
being
guys.
authentic again. My bad.
So listen, guys. The more support that you give us, the more that we are able to do, and the more content that we can create. And you know, even if you don't want to, even if you're not in a position where you can sign up to be a patron, just share something. Share an episode, share a clip. Follow us on Instagram at Marshall
share something you
Mindcast. At Marshall Mindcast. Share something that resonates with you. If you can, click that link at the bottom of the episode. Become a patron today. The more patrons that we have, the more time we can commit, and the more we'll be able to do exclusive content. That's just at this stage in our lives. It's been pretty difficult to make, but you know, we're doing everything that we can.
Yeah.
We love you. Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you for being part of the
Love you
show.
guys. Thank you.
I have to say, the Discord has been super active the past couple of weeks.
It's
Lots
lit.
of people are communicating with each other and talking about training and just joking with each other, and it's awesome. So definitely make a Discord account. Be part of the server. It's free to join the server. Just be part of the community of people talking about martial arts, sharing their love for it, sharing their shortcomings and successes, and just hanging out and having community. And community is what this is all about. So,
You can also share your memes.
and share your memes. There is a meme
Memes.
page.
Big fan of
There is a
memes.
we are
Memes.
big fans of laughs and memes.
We have the meme machine.
Is there anything else? Any promotions? Anything we should promote or anything like that coming up? Or
I don't think so.
yeah, no,
we're
just
pretty
YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, TikTok, wherever you want to find us. Here we are.
Yep.
So thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you to all of our followers. And this has been the Martial Mind Podcast.